Okay, good morning, everybody. And just checking, first of all, you can see the screen.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. And thanks, Geoff, for inviting me on. It looks a really good session, both the presentation we've started with and the panel that I look forward to. Particularly that overview, Sam, I must say, it was inspiring. And it also, from my experience of living in the Northwest and being familiar with the story of cities' physical infrastructural investments into East Manchester over the last 10 years. It's really heartening to see that it's genuinely replicated in community involvement. And, you know, you really are walking the walk in terms of key themes that are established right across our network, I have to say, and I'm obviously going to talk about that, but new themes that are constantly evolving and all clubs and community organisations are grappling with, not least mental health. So fabulous to see a great example of a very high profile club committing wholeheartedly to the community. So my name's Andy Snell. I joined EFL Trust at the end of last year to head up the business development side of things after a restructure. And I come from an inward investment background, urban regeneration, really. Most recently, 7 years at the British Chamber of Commerce. And I've found in the time I've been here, EFL Trust a really fabulous place to work, one that really believes in its values and its culture, constantly reinvesting, but moreover, totally focused on the output and the outcome, which is supporting our club community organisations and the people that we can make a real difference to in their lives. So I've really enjoyed it. I can't say I've left my living room much yet, but I'm starting to visit clubs up and down the country, which is fantastic. And of course, I've spent a lot of time online with colleagues and community organisations up and down the country. Great to see some of them on here today. And of course, Foundation 92 in Salford, who've had such great growth over the last 18 months. We'll be seeing them on the panel. And Foundation of Light, which I haven't had the opportunity to visit yet. And I'm really looking forward to hearing their story and their evolving strategy. And also, you know, you've got a great range of participants on here. So you're up to 50 now, which is great. People are joining, and new partners that I haven't worked with yet, but we're exploring ideas with, such as the UEFA Foundation. So it's a great mix, and so thanks very much for inviting me. So, EFL Trust, for those that don't know, and I'm conscious you have got quite a diverse and international audience, is the charitable arm of the English Football League. So it's a network of 72 club community organisations from Carlisle in the north to Plymouth further south. And it uses the phrase that's been mentioned already this morning, the power of football, the genuine power of football that touches people's lives and can engage people in positive change across a range of themes. And we all know England is a hotbed of football, and 36.4 million people, like 61% of the UK, live within 10 miles of an English Football League club. So that's really positive in terms of engagement and identity and awareness of a foundation when it's reaching out to people. But it also is representative of some of the figures that Sam touched on. It's quite stark when you look at the demographics within that close proximity to a club. So the catchment area of an English Football League club, there's 70% of universal credit claimants live within that catchment area. 62% of Black, Asian, minority ethnic population live within those catchment areas. And a disproportionate amount of people who are registered as obese or indeed overweight, but in terms of those that are targeting in terms of obese, live within that catchment area. So that's a really important context, because our national coverage, combined with the ability to reach those demographic of groups in deprived areas, aligns us very well with a range of government strategic objectives and funding streams. And it's why we've been able to distribute 18-19 million pounds per annum across a range of health, education, employability programs on behalf of government, because they know that we are able to reach, through our network of club community organisations, the people that they find hard to reach. So it's a really important context. Our mission is to advise, support, represent and resource the network. We are focused on improving physical and mental health and well-being, raising aspirations and realising potential, and fundamentally creating safer, stronger, more healthier communities. And our values sort of run deep in achieving that. We're passionate about our people. We're continuously innovating and inspire with our network, leading by example, and our focus on continuous improvement. That's just not in our staff, but across our board and our supporting infrastructure and within the EFL. We're really, really committed to the network from the top down. And as I say, it's a fantastic place to be. I was asked to give an insight into how we're structured nationally. I won't spend too much time on this, but I work with another colleague, a fellow director, Kathy Abraham, who's in charge of governance and quality, which is really important given the scale of the network and the impact we have. Kathy's focused on internal governance, capability code of practice across the network, quality assurance, risk management, audit, safeguarding, very important of course, and health and safety policy and practice across the network. And I cover the business development side, which I'm going to talk through today in terms of our core areas of education, employability, health and well-being and participation, and community engagement. And of course, we're developing themes within those 3 areas, but also looking to broaden our scope and impact. And really importantly, we've got absolutely fabulous support from our board of trustees and on an infrastructure whereby we have an advisory group and we have executive groups where we work cross teams within the EFL, particularly for myself with colleagues in the commercial team when we're looking for new sponsors and partnerships. And we really use our collective collateral to present a massive opportunity for them and deliver on that. And we've had a bit of transition over the summer, which has been good and very exciting. Actually, we have a new chair who is from Lincoln City. Many will be familiar. Liam Scully, very successful, leading both the club community organisation and indeed the football club. And we've had a very busy transfer window and a great transfer window actually, because we've also brought in Carol Shanahan from Port Vale, are very prominent within the network, very successful, not just with Port Vale, but also with their Hub Foundation. So it's brilliant for me. I've been able to meet the team and meet the network, and then quite a short time in, we're having an injection of brand new ideas, lots of energy and amazing experience. So I feel like we're very set up here at the EFL Trust now. Just flick on, just show a bit of our structure is quite heavily focused towards on our biggest program, National Citizenship Service. So bulk of our staff, in terms of from a support perspective, are in this area. And that's because it is so critical for the EFL and the EFL Trust network. We're in our 10th year of delivering National Citizenship Service programs, and they truly are life-changing opportunities for young people aged 16 to 17. 64 of our clubs are participating in that, and we have 65,000 young people who volunteered over that 10 years, 2 million hours in their local communities. And now I ask you, if they hadn't been compelled to get engaged through football and through their club community organisation. Pardon? I think somebody might just come off mute, no problem. How much of that impact would have been lost? 64 clubs, 65,000 young people, 2 million hours of voluntary service in their local communities. So National Citizenship Service has been critical for us. But as I say, we're grouped into 3 areas of activity: health and well-being, education and employability, and participation in community engagement. And we're just going to talk through a number of programs that our clubs are participating in. So in terms of education and employability, particularly around youth employment, it's really critical to see the opportunity that career routes, work experience, placements, traineeships, real vocational routes to employment for our young people we can provide and have been providing, whether they be through the traineeship program, apprenticeship program, or more recently, more sophisticated involvement with for example, the University of South Wales, where we have degree programs where you can start with a foundation degree and progress to a top-up degree. And this activity can be delivered predominantly within the local community and attached to the identity of that football club, but it's also supported by on-site educational programs down in the campus in University of South Wales. We visited last week and the induction started. So, genuine career routes for young people right across our communities in the club community organisations. And we're developing further on that, introducing new pathways, strength and conditioning, business management, inspiring people to embark on a career and give them the opportunity in areas where we know there will be jobs. Say employability is really key, and with the support of Youth Futures Foundation and the Department of Work and Pensions, we've introduced training ground program, which reaches out to those who are furthest away from the labour market with a holistic approach that looks at health, looks at their aspirations, looks at the educational barriers, looks at the family support that's needed. And we're working on at the moment on a development grant, and it's going very, very well. And we look to progress towards an impact grant with the Youth Futures Foundation. And something that everybody based in the UK will have heard of over this last 12 months, Kickstart programme, the government Kickstart programme, which provides 6-month placements for young people during a particularly challenging time, where traditional industries where young people would access, such as hospitality and leisure, have been hit so hard. Opportunities within football clubs and community organisations are broader than the traditional coaching routes, and we're just so excited that we were initially allocated 500 places, but we now have 1,400 places across the country where young people are getting experience in commercial departments, ticketing departments, hospitality, as well as those in your traditional sporting industries, whether it be coaching, ground staff, etc. So, this is just crucial for young people to give them a start in life. We're very proud to be part of that, and we're even more proud of the innovation and the agility of club community organisations to make it happen. Where they're all dealing with a pressured environment, both at work and home, showing a commitment to young people. So, education and employability is a key theme for us. That one that we're continuously looking to evolve, and very conscious that we have a real responsibility to create as many opportunities for young people as possible. Health and wellbeing programs, some have been touched on today. I suppose we've got a lot to go through, but I sort of group them into 3 areas in terms of start well, live well, and age well. Start well, Joy of Moving program is a very successful partnership that EFL Trust have had with Ferrero, who have sponsored engagement at primary school level to get young people moving early, understanding the value of exercise and nutrition across a balanced diet, and giving them opportunities to explore what their body can do, what they're interested in, how they'd like to develop, and just getting some really great habits together early on, which can set them up in life. And sort of a testament to the success of that. It's in its 7th year, and it's been renewed up to 9 years. So it's been able to attract complementary funding from public sources, but it's a great example of a private sector company with a very focused strategic corporate social responsibility objective that can make such a difference in primary school. So Joy of Moving is a fantastic programme. Live Well. Fit Fans is one I'd like to spend a little bit of time on. It's aimed at, but not exclusively, it's aimed at those probably the age bracket I'm into, so 45 to 50s, predominantly male, again, not exclusively, of those who may have been exercising a lot earlier in life, whether it be change of habits or work, or stopped participating in a particular sport they used to enjoy because the structure's not there anymore. And it's really trying to provide an alternative route for weight management. So people are referred if they are considered to be overweight or obese by the body mass index portal. But this cohort wouldn't go to your traditional Weight Watchers or Slimming World. It's just not culturally what they would do. However, it's through a football club program, a 12-week program, which takes place at the stadium. perhaps in the hospitality lounge, or certainly within the confines of the stadium, that brings people together initially very skeptical of whether they should be referred onto this weight management program. All of a sudden to be brought into a group that they can empathize with, of people of a similar age, of a similar affinity to whatever club that they've engaged with in their local area, suddenly changes behaviors very, very quickly. And the program of activity, which starts with information and advice and maybe a wake-up call as to the direction of travel they're going in terms of their lifestyle habits, suddenly becomes very positive, very impactful when the exercise starts with just by walking around the stadium pitch, which can be exciting for a lot of people who've not had that access before, progressing to walking up and down the stairs of the seating area in the stadium, progressing ultimately to a walking football or regular exercise and routine. And quite quickly, over a 12-week period, it's shown to be astonishing in terms of the return on investment of establishing habits quickly, weight loss, engagement, feedback. And it's something that it has been and is currently being scaled up with additional support from local authority, weight management, budget support to those who've not been able to participate on the programme. And I suppose I should pause there and say that is a challenge for us at EFL Trust and our club community organisations. Whilst we have a network of 72 clubs, because of how government funding is targeted, it's quite often we're only able to reach 35, 40 of those club community organisations because of where an arbitrary line is drawn in terms of deprivation funding, or where the demographics show that the starkest problems. But we're conscious that these solutions work in every area, so we're always looking to complement initial funding with match public or private sector funding. So Fit Fans is a really successful project that I'm sure a lot of you are already aware of, and our ambition is to try and scale that up right across the network, whether it be through public funding or a private sponsor that can bring added value to everyone participating. We have another in Live Well that I must mention, called Every Player Counts, and that's our disability programme, which is funded through a percentage of ticket sales or gate receipts at Wembley Stadium National Trust, of which, of course, over the last 12 months has been very little. So it is one that is at risk in terms of that income source as a sustainable path for the foreseeable future, but we're looking for a long-term partner to complement that, because it's just been, again, such a really inspiring project to enable anyone with any disability to engage in football activity and have an impact in their lives. So for me, that's one that I'm particularly focused on making sure we've got a sustainable future on. But yeah, live well, established habits, really important how we can reach through club community organisations and make an impact. And then finally, age well, which became really into prominence during the pandemic period, whereby we can tackle loneliness, tackle isolation, and create really positive environments for those in the latter years of their lives who have retired and maybe fell out of habits of socializing and exercising. We'll be able to bring them together through football. Participation in community engagement. I'll just give you a couple of examples. Faith, race and hate crime. We ran a pilot with MHCLG, Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, to bring communities together through football, differences on religion and ethnicity, called Communities United. We had to do it, we had to deliver it in an entirely different way we envisaged because of the pandemic, so it had to be entirely online. So it was delivered through a medium, believe it or not, with sharing recipes and sharing cultural identity and how people can break down the barriers of understanding of how communities are different. But again, it wouldn't have come about other than through the engagement through football. And they're very pleased with that pilot. And although we would deliver it a bit more, maybe in more of a hybrid fashion, a more traditional fashion, we were able to tackle differences within communities in 6 communities in the Northwest, which outside London had the highest prevalence of faith, race and hate crime. So there's a lot of pilot projects in this area, participation, community engagement. I think that one has legs. Youth Endowment Fund is a youth peer research program where we're looking to tackle the causes of youth violence through really engaging with those who've either been the perpetrators or the victims of youth crime. So again, it just shows the scope and the scale of how football can address problems, which are very difficult problems and are not easy to create a program that will create impact straight away. So these pilots are really important to us. And I mentioned the National Citizenship Service Programme, which is, we're in the second of our current 3-year funding cycle, and the comprehensive spending review at the end of the year, as well as the government youth service review, will really influence how that will shape going forward. But it's absolutely fantastic and critical programme. I was also asked to talk about our approach to lobbying and stakeholder management. And now our funders are absolutely critical to us. They provide the foundation for us to be able to invest in the infrastructure and enable our community organisations to operate. So the funding that either come from the English Football League or the Professional Football Association or the Premier League, and a lot of it driven by the level of the TV deal that they're able to allocate a percentage of funds to charitable activity, is very, very important. We take that seriously. It's obviously, you know, a major focus of ours to deliver on our objectives and to refine those objectives with our funders. But it's also incumbent upon us to find new partners across the public and the private sector. And I've listed a few there. Some are very prominent in terms of Sport England, the Education and Skills Funding Agency, the League Football Association. I've mentioned Ferrero. Network Rail, University of South Wales, I've mentioned as well. There's more than that. The principal partners that we're working with, alongside, of course, a Football Association and a new commercial partner, Puma. I'll talk about how we work with each when it gets to the programs, but the common theme for us is understanding and delivering on their objectives, being agile and responding to how they may change. And that can be brought about by a changing context for them. We need to, and we do provide great amount of visibility for them throughout the year in our principal events, whether that be from the day of action, when all the club community organisations operate a range of activity on one particular day. It's covered heavily in the media, on Sky Sports, on BBC, Radio 5. It's covered right across the fabulous social media breadth and depth that the community organisations have. So for us, it's very important to provide that visibility then. It's also very important to recognise the performance of our club community organisations, and we have an annual Club Community of the Year award, which is fabulous for the winner. And this year was Port Vale, and it was absolutely fabulous. But for me, it shines a light on all the club community organisations, and also the need to continuously invest in supporting people across communities close to the EFL, and how we can make an impact across health, employability and engagement. And we also provide sort of high-profile opportunities for them working with government. So we have an annual event at the House of Commons. We receive ministerial visits regularly to look at our programme. We've had visits from the Chancellor Rishi this year, twice across the Kickstart programme and across the National Citizenship Service Programme. So, you know, it's really impactful for them in terms of the social return on investment they get. We measure that seriously. We have a logic model and a theory of change for every project we do. It's very important for us to demonstrate social value and hit their CSR objectives. But we know a lot of it's about visibility, a lot of it's about introductions, and we're set up to do that well. And we'll be doing that soon again with our annual conference, which is coming up in October. We do have challenges in lobbying and stakeholder management. Again, one of mine is that although with the English Football League, we do have 3 Welsh clubs. So we do have Cardiff City, Newport County and Swansea. And for me, you know, they're not able to access some of the funding in Sport England because they just don't fit within the geographical boundaries, or some other government funding expenditure. They do have great support from the Football Association of Wales, and there is Sport Wales, which I'm trying to just develop stronger partnerships with, so we can really engage all of the 72 clubs, and more importantly, their communities in the activity, the programme that we can do. So how are we progressing? Again, we were asked about learnings. I was interested to hear Sam's, and also our direction of travel. So I suppose really you need to set the context. It's so fast moving. For us in particular around sponsorship and partners we can work with, the British Medical Association is calling for a ban on junk food advertising within sport. There's an all-parliamentary group on gambling harm and responsible gambling, two very, very important issues that we don't take lightly, and we'd like to be part of the solution. I think we are. The Social Value Act, and just the effect of 2020 and the whole pandemic, it presents a great opportunity for us. There's greater awareness of health and broader deprivation and inequalities. So that, shines a light on us and what we can do. And an increasing alignment, I think, to an awareness of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which is not something that rolls off the tongue for most people. And I was pleasantly surprised when we had a session with our clubs of the awareness of these goals, but also the alignment to some of the things that we're doing already. So if you think about, just take a few from the list there, the response during lockdown with regards to food parcels and holiday activity food really does tackle parts of communities that are really struggling in terms of poverty, in terms of relative poverty within the UK. Again, that tackles hunger as well. The food deliveries, the Kicks holiday camps that run through the Premier League as well, really tackles that. The health and well-being development goal, the 3, through sport, we're able to tackle loneliness, obesity, mental health. I could go on. Education, the apprenticeships program, the degree program, the coaching, gender equality. We have a commitment through Female Talent ID to provide a pathway to the highest level in football, in the Lionesses. So a route to talent spot young girls. Of course, that's just growing exponentially in terms of the quality and the engagement of girls in football. And we have the Women's Euros coming up next year. So just like, I won't go through all of them, but just the 5 sustainable development goals, they perhaps provide a framework for evolving strategy. So we've started to incorporate that and give opportunities for our club community organisations. So we've introduced environmental sustainability into our code of practice and our compliance and our green code, but we've also provided opportunities through the Kickstart network. So we'd like to see a sustainable development officer in each of the club community organisations, and to pilot that through Kickstart and give the support to young people who will be more aware and more focused than generations older than them on these objectives, is for me a fine area that we can use the power of football to make change. So again, areas in development, but very important. Private sector, I think, in terms of looking for new partners, are very much more focused now on purpose-led initiatives rather than purely focus on visibility through where they can make an impact through web presence or billboards or screens. They'll always be part of a package, but if you look at the top corporate social responsibility themes across all sectors, it's supporting elderly, food poverty, mental health, youth unemployment, financial literacy, and environmental sustainability. They're the top 6 themes that the private sector are focused on. And like Manchester City has shown in the previous presentation, and like Tom at Salford will show, and the Foundation of Light will illustrate, I've no doubt, we can provide solutions for these problems. So it's not always going to be government funding that will sustain the activity that we're doing. There's an opportunity with partnering with the private sector, and that's why I'm working very closely with our colleagues in the EFL commercial team to present really clear pitches and engage with companies and work towards their objectives. And again, we can support that with the evidence that each of the clubs can bring of the impact of their own programs. So I'll just finish on, what are our plans for the future. We, under the stewardship of our Chief Executive, Mike Evans, had our own Build Back Better strategy with the summer of last year, summer of 2020, before I joined. And, like all organisations, we had to go through a period of crisis. We had to really focus on the controlling the controllables and really concentrating on what could be done now. How can we support our network financially, structurally, engaging them, listening, learning, being agile, being responsible, shifting like everybody else did to programs online, delivering what we could, but responding to the greatest challenges that were in society then, and they clearly were isolation and very frightened, vulnerable people. So it was absolutely phenomenal to see close to 1 million food parcels quite early on hit. We were able to activate. I don't want to steal a thunder of the panel later, but we were able to activate through club community organisations an emergency response service, and it just showed how incredible, how trusted, how powerful the network of football club community organisations were able to do that. I'm sure everybody saw it firsthand, and so many participated. Then we were able to, and we had to adapt. What is a post-COVID world looking like for us in terms of challenges and opportunities? I've mentioned obesity before. The sad fact of the matter is the UK suffered relatively worse to other parts of the world because of what is an obesity epidemic in this country, and we have to confront that. And we can and are confronting that to some extent through the engagement of club community organisations. So that Fit Fans programme is easy to work, easy to engage, shows immediate results, easily communicated through a football prism, through fans, and can be replicated without funding socially amongst a group of friends with the principals. But for those that are really hard to reach, this is very, very important, and it is continue to attract investment through Sport England and local authorities. So obesity is one that has been a massive wake-up call, and I think we'll have even more attention focused on that. Secondly, within COVID, what did it teach us? A surge in volunteering, an absolute unbelievable surge in volunteering, but largely brought upon by people's time. So if things were closed down, they didn't have the normal activities that they were participating in, they were literally prevented from doing that, then that freed up people's time. But I think there was a great awareness of what you can do in your own community, and a real willingness to do it, and perhaps for the first time the opportunity to do it. There was a government review over this period, a Kruger review, which explored the drivers of that, but fundamentally concluded that we need to capture that spirit of volunteering, and we're working on a programme with the Youth Service Corps, Year of Service, to introduce community health activators into our network. But I think generally we need to provide a very transparent and engaging framework whereby people can volunteer their time. And what better way to do it than to engage with your local football club that you'd be proud to do so, to have an affinity with, as well as the impact you're creating through volunteering. So I think that's a big focus for us. Youth unemployment, particularly around those sectors I talked about in terms of hospitality and leisure, it's just absolutely rocketed. And it's a frightening world for a lot of our young people. So I think, again, we need to prioritise that. We've got a route to do that through a development grant for the Futures Foundation, and we're working on the impact grants and working with other funders. But that's something that we've got a responsibility to the next generation to create those opportunities. And I think we will see government back that with resource, and so we should be at the heart of that, and we are. We adapted, as I said, with our partners as well. So University of South Wales, to give the example, we work together to diversify the vocational routes. People are reluctant to invest in education if they're unsure of the outcome in terms of employment opportunities. It costs more. There's the saddling of debts that people are worried about. So we can give people confidence by working with our partners to provide vocational routes that have a higher percentage of good career out of them. So again, that's incumbent on us to treat that seriously and work towards that goal. And that, is there a strategic, sustainable way that we can look at holiday activity food? Others mentioned before about the fantastic job that Marcus Rashford did in terms of raising the issue, going toe-to-toe with government, and now working proactively and productively in what is a very serious issue that people need support for life chances from the very start. But is there a strategic, sustainable way we can do that? And I believe we can. I believe the Football Network can provide one of the options to deliver very well on that. And as I said earlier, I'm excited that Carol's joining us, who's very experienced in that area and can help us guide our strategy. So there's a range of challenges that have come from COVID, but there are also a range of opportunities. And so it's just about revisiting your business plan, looking at your SWOT analysis of ourselves as the EFL Trust, but also right across the network, and listening and learning from them. So that's where we're at now, preparing for the next phase. We're, as a management team, committed to visiting all 72 clubs over the summer period to just check in with them, not just on the financial performance, the welfare of the staff, seeing their programs, how they're operating, what facilities that they have been able to invest in or they would like to invest in, what innovation is coming through, both within their own teams and listening to their client base. So we're at a stage now where we're preparing new plans, and we're building up to our conference in St George's Park in October, where we bring together all those club community organisations for the first time in a long while. So really looking forward to that. So, where we're at on a strategic level is coming out of that crisis, being thankful that we've been able to bring everyone with us. We've had the support available in terms of infrastructural support, but they've all done so fabulously well with their own business plans. That's been limited in how we've had to activate it. But we're now in the period where we're looking to work with each club community organisation and help with their own plans and learn from them, because a good idea usually starts with one club and can be easily replicated across others. So it's a fabulous network. It speaks for itself. I'm delighted to become part of it. I'm delighted to participate in sessions such as this, where I can learn from their experiences and their ideas. So that's just an overview of where we're at EFL Trust, but more importantly, where our clubs are. They provide sort of lifeblood of the network, and we provide the infrastructure for them to thrive. So handing back to you, Geoff. Happy to take questions from yourself or anybody on the chat.
Andy, again, another inspiring presentation. Thank you so much for that. Yes, I have a few. There's one question that's come in. How do you ensure a consistent delivery across all of your member clubs for your programs that you run?
Yeah, sure. Well, we take it very seriously, not just because we have a commitment to our funder, so there's the very defined objectives and key performance indicators, but it's the strength of the network is dependent upon the performance of all, really. So what we have is a capability code of practice, a very strong governance structure whereby we support those that may be struggling. We have a team that's led by my colleague Kathy, who will work with them on an improvement plan if they're struggling. We've got brilliant resource to share in terms of best practice. So if one club isn't performing so well, there are others that will be, and maybe address challenges that they are currently encountering. So the pastoral care is there for all our community organisations. The intelligence behind that, in terms of a dashboard of indicators and RAG analysis, when it flags up as to where we need support, is there, and those areas that are particularly important in terms of safeguarding health and safety. We can deploy resources very quickly and help clubs. So the consistency of performance and standards are the heart of what we're doing, and our risk register is reviewed every month with the supporting committee made up of trustees as well as officers.
And I think that makes sense. You're measuring it through, well, statistics. You've got the RAG status, but I love the idea of that pastoral care and that support that comes in behind it. Fantastic. When it comes to then lobbying, feel free to unshare your screen there, and we can see you. But when it comes to lobbying, how important is lobbying?
Yeah, it's important, because I think what we find with our funders and our potential funders, whether in the public or the private sector, they're constantly innovating. Their understanding of challenges and ways to remedy them are evolving. So for me, yes, we have to lobby by, in some instances, objecting or putting forward the way we would do it. But more importantly, it's about maintaining a strong relationship with existing and potential partners to understand where they're coming from. So because often you can design solutions together. So lobbying is very important. We have a responsibility to do that for our network and our client groups, particularly if we feel a government direction isn't fair in some instance. We do have a mechanism to engage. Most recently is the Youth Service Review. So government will act directly, seek us out as a partner, because we're a national network of 72 clubs, to input as to what works, what could work. And that voice doesn't come from myself or the chief executive or even the board of trustees. It comes from all of those people plus our network. So we will run workshops, surveys, webinars over a period of months to bring forward a position that is representative of the EFL Trust family. So it is a carefully and intelligently crafted message to government that shows that we're speaking on behalf of 36.4 million people living within a 10-mile radius of the EFL clubs, and more importantly, those that are at the coalface, those people that are running such fabulous programs that Sam and his colleagues are.
I think that's a good point. Well, there's two things that really has hit me. Number one, when you're doing the lobbying, have your stats, have your figures, so that you can understand the impact that you're making to the person that you're lobbying. And I really love the idea about that sustainable goals. And probably that is a challenge to everybody listening. Are you looking at all of these sustainable goals for potential ways for football to educate on those areas? So okay,
Geoff, on that point, I think you've hit it spot on. What are you measuring? So you're measuring the outputs and indicators, but there's a social return on investment. So you need a logic model of why you're doing something before you do it, and then you need to demonstrate what impact you've had in community. So in the community of all your programs. So that's something we've really invested in over the last 12 months. It's a complex picture. And then the sustainable development goals, if you're not foursquare focused on them now, by the time it gets to November and the climate change summit is in Glasgow, it'll be all over the news, and you'll suddenly see sponsorships and partnerships attached to all kinds of brands and sectors. So it's coming our way big time this year.
Very, very interesting, I think, learning and takeaway. There are other questions, Andy, and I'll just go to one more. I take it you encourage the players from the league. Just the question has come in here. I take it you encourage the players from the league to actually, work alongside you in terms of, the programs. These are the players from the clubs in essence.
Yeah, we do. Yes. So on our board is the director of corporate responsibility from the Professional Footballers Association, and in conjunction with our Community Club of the Year award, we also have an award for the footballer who has stepped up across each division, across any of those themes within their community. And again, it's not the one winner that will get the recognition. There'll be, there's a report written about how all clubs have addressed engaging their players in positive change, and without exception, the fabulous, both the clubs in engaging with the players, but also the players as role models. So, and we don't underestimate how powerful that is. If a young 9-year-old girl sees their hero and articulating a message and wanting to get involved. So it's really important, and as I say, without exception, they all step up and tap into that resource.
Fantastic, Andy. Well, look, there's other questions in there, and you know, feel free to answer them if I haven't.
Well, I'll go through them in a second, and come back to
that is great.
I do appreciate the questions. Thanks very much, everybody.
And Andy, fabulous session yet again. Just unfortunately with time, we've just got to keep pushing on. So Andy, thank you so much.